So, what better way to start your week than by us sitting here talking about Alabama football recruiting, where the Crimson Tide not only gets big news in terms of the updated On3 rankings, but we need to talk about Alabama in pursuit of several 5 stars that you, quite frankly, do not want to miss. Before we jump into this, y'all know the drill. I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments. Give me a Y for yes, N for no. Do you believe Alabama lands some more 5 stars before they start the season? Let me hear what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below, as those interactions do seem small, but they are massive. But having said all that, we're going to jump right into it. We have a lot to talk about, and I have a very special guest with me today that many of you know. But Jake, go ahead and introduce yourself to the people.
What's going on, everybody? Good to see you guys on this beautiful Monday. I love it, man. There's a lot of fun things going on with football. Of course, the off season is always exciting, especially on the recruiting trail. Obviously, for those who don't know me, right, I'm Jake Merrill. You can find me at Set the Tone, Alabama and College Football Talk. That's my channel. But in the meantime, I jump over here a lot with my boy Ty here at Round the Table Sports. So absolutely love being on here. It's a pleasure and honor as usual. So
always great having you. And for those of you watching right now, a little bit of an update for channel news before we jump into some Alabama football news. The Monday live stream will be happening Tuesday evening. It's the wife and I's anniversary today, so we're getting some morning content out the way. That way I can go out and about, enjoy the day with the wife. But don't miss out. Tuesday, 5:30 Central Standard Time. You'll see Jake right over here once again. So be sure to be on the lookout for that. But Jake, I think we're going to start this off talking about Alabama in pursuit of some big-time prospects, some 5-star prospects that, quite frankly, Alabama fans are dying to know about. Ty Haywood ranks number 12 in the nation per 24/7 Sports Composite, the number 2 offensive tackle, and the number 4 in the state of Texas. But we are also going to talk about the updated On3 rankings. And if we go ahead and turn our attention to the updated On3 rankings, Ty Haywood comes in at number 7 in the nation per On3. This has been an interesting battle. There was a point not long ago where many in the recruiting world felt like this was Oklahoma's battle to lose. However, as time has gone on, as Alabama has transitioned staffs, as Coach Cap has really gotten acclimated not only to the Tide, but the recruiting trail for the Crimson Tide, it seems like things are trending heavily in Alabama's favor. Now, Jake, before I pass it to you, I would argue that one of the most significant developments in the battle for Ty Haywood is whenever he was set to take that last visit to Oklahoma and instead took it to Florida State. Because personally, from the outside looking in, remember, I just read tea leaves. I'm no insider. If Oklahoma was the team that many out there, many heavy hitters in the recruiting industry thought was the team to beat 6-7 months ago, and then he doesn't take that visit after he goes to Alabama and instead goes to Florida State, that's got to be good news for Alabama, right? Or am I reading too much into that? Let me know what you think of Ty Haywood. Let me know what you think about Alabama's chances, and then let me know what you think about the order of those visits.
yeah, that's interesting, right? Number one with Ty Haywood, phenomenal player. I love Ty's game. We look at, you and me have talked about this here and there, even outside of the streams, outside of the videos. We've talked about this offensive lineman class, but really these offensive tackles. What we're seeing with a lot of these offensive tackles, especially today, is we're seeing these top guys are extremely athletic. They're versatile. They can move. They have good footwork. A lot of them have great bend. You see them as a total athlete, right? They're quick with their first step. They have the strength, but you're really seeing the athleticism in these top offensive tackles. And I think that's what I want to keep highlighting and keep saying. Every player is an athlete who's going out to play sports, right? And you get an opportunity to play college sports in general, male or female, you're an athlete. But when I talk about athlete and I talk about these players, especially these bigger guys, these big dudes, anywhere from 6'5" to 6'7", shoot, if you're over at Georgia, 6'11", with their newest edition. That's another topic for another day, people. But yeah, you talk about these big athletes, anywhere between 290, right, to 340, 330 pounds that move fluidly as if they could go out and play. Real quick, just to give you a quick example, go watch Michael Carroll, right? Michael Carroll, Big Mike. You go out and you watch him. There's a video of him running a route downfield, making a little move, and he goes and catches that baby in the end zone. There's also a video of him jumping up and dunking a basketball. I mean, these guys today, what we are seeing athletic wise from a standpoint of just the offensive line, the big men, even defensive line, is we are seeing guys who can move, who can jump, who, it's basically the Incredible Hulk out there on the field. They can play. Go look at Jaden Roberts if you don't know what I'm talking about. Incredible Hulk out there on the field. And I love it, man. And that's what Ty Haywood brings, right? He does a great job. Yeah, there's little things he can refine. That's how we all should be, right? We should always be learning, always have a ceiling, always have an ability to climb and get better and better and better. But I love him from his footwork standpoint, from his mindset. He's a smart player. He's dedicated. He's a lot of fun to watch. You check out his film. He is going to be a impact player at the next level. Great offensive tackle. Can't wait to see him prosper wherever that's going to be, right? The reason I say it right now is because you're right. These order of visits was interesting. You have a lot of kids today, they take their, multiple visits. I believe it's 5 you have multiple visits. You can go out and you enjoy them, you learn. But it's interesting that he hits Bama, right? Decides, hey, you know what? Oklahoma, who everyone thought was like that main competitor, was Bama, Oklahoma. And sure enough, he says, nah, I'm good. I'm happy with what I saw. And then the Florida State visit, right? And I think overall, you look at kind of where his mindset's at. I think he is figuring out, okay, I'm being patient. I'm taking my time. I'm letting myself work through, because you go from emotional high to emotional balance. You're high after these visits. You're like, look at Caleb Cunningham. Every week he was telling everybody how great each school was. And the truth is, after the visits, they all are great. They're all amazing.
Only fair.
They're freaking cool. I'll tell you that right now. Every school I went to, I loved. I got done. I was like, oh my God, I want to play. This is so cool. It is cool. And you should enjoy that experience. But at the same time, you have to get down to being realistic at some point and saying, okay, what is best for me? And I think that's what we're seeing in Ty Haywood. We see a lot of people saying this, and not just people. We're talking people who have serious background in recruiting. They do a lot of analysis. They have a lot of insider information. But a lot of people projected Ty Haywood to Alabama. And I think he's developed a relationship that he wants on staff or with the staff, but also with the team there. You see what they're doing with that offensive line. Those guys come together. They have the personalities in place. They have the athletes in place. Ty mixes in great with that class, but also with what they already have. You have to remember the offensive line, what they have at Bama, that is a very special room. I'm not saying others are not, but that room right there is full of leaders, full of people who've gone through adversity. Ty, you and me have talked about it in another video. It is a room that if you're an offensive lineman, you can walk into. You will feel welcomed. You will feel loved. You'll feel part of that unit, which is very important to be if you're an offensive lineman. And most importantly, you're going to have extreme growth because the guys around you are going to utilize their experience to help you get better. Something to think about.
Love that. And as a quick aside, before we jump into, we're going to talk about 2 prospects next. Stick around because I have a rant for you that will come whenever we talk about the updated rankings with the On3 rankings. Stick around. You don't want to miss that rant. That'll be towards the end of this video because we have some more prospects Alabama is hot on the trail after. Jake, I want to talk next about the Mississippi boys, Ackland Deer and Caleb Cunningham. Deer ranks number 32 nationally per the 24/7 Sports Composite, number 2 running back, number 2 in the state. Then you have Caleb Cunningham, number 14 nationally, number 2 wide receiver, number 1 in the state. We've talked about Ackland Deer previously. We made a whole video talking about him. If you didn't catch that one, be sure to go back on the channel. Jake and I broke that down really well. But Caleb Cunningham, you alluded to him. He is an interesting prospect, no question about it. Incredibly talented. And one thing that I love Alabama is trying to do is they're getting wide receivers with stylistic differences. That way they have their X, Z, Y all taken care of. They know, okay, we got some outside dudes. We got some slot dudes. Those stylistic differences, I've always said, Jake, can create nightmares for a defense, especially when you start putting them in motion, moving them around. You got a lot you got to account for. So, how do you like Alabama's chances getting the two guys who, though per the 24/7 Sports Composite, Ackland Deer isn't a 5-star right now? If he stays at number 32, I very much will consider him to be a 5-star, and I think he will be. How do you like Alabama's chances with the Mississippi boys?
Yeah, the boys from the SIP, man, dude. I'm gonna be honest; these two excite me. I have a lot of fun talking about them because they do have like great personalities. You have Ackland, who is serious yet like ready to put the hammer down like when he runs the ball. He feels like a defensive player on offense because if it like you watch him and he just is like ready, right? He reminds me of kind of like that Batman face. You know what I'm saying? Just ready to go. And then you got Caleb, and Caleb's fun, man. I think what I like about Caleb in general is, man, he's just he's witty, he's quick, he's smart, but he has that confidence and swag, man. He's not overly arrogant, right? Like we see that with some wide receivers are overly confident. Man, I like Caleb's Cunningham swag, right? I love it, man. These boys from the SIP, I'm excited about them. There's a lot of talk, a lot of rumors and stuff putting out there. I mean, if you haven't seen it, Aaron Hodges put out some really funny stuff. It was phenomenal on Twitter. If we saw the deer post, if we saw the fox post, if you saw the lock post, if you saw the meadow post. I mean, dude, he was all over it. And then he did a little I don't know if you want to call it a poem or a little paragraph talking about his weekend and where he was going to spend it and what he was planning on doing. And Ty, you guys had a little bit of interaction. That was really cool. I'll tell you, man, that was awesome. You know what I'm saying? That was awesome.
Hey man,
But
you ever want to go, Hodges? You ever want to go hunting? You let me know. We'll get out there with the bows, man.
yes, Ty's a real Robin Hood, everybody. Boom. I love it though, man. It's these two guys, they've had this great relationship building, right? More so, I should say, on Ackland's side because Gillespie's done a phenomenal job over time, as he always does. One thing I've realized, and excuse me, I do not give enough credit to Coach Gillespie and Coach Roach. I need to make sure in all of my videos that I'm doing a better job of giving you two coaches credit because you know what? I just feel like you guys are such a staple of the program that at times I'm like, they're just part of the foundation. They're just part of the legend. And you are focused so much on what's new, you forget what's been there and what stabilizes a lot of things. And that's Coach Roach, right? That's Coach Gillespie. I mean, I don't want to not say haha, right? Haha's done a great job too from the backside of things for those who don't know. In just maintaining like great relationships. And there's several others as well. But I'll say Coach Gillespie did a good one with Ackland. And I think from Ackland's standpoint, you also look at his connection with Daniel, right? And I'll tell you, Hill also from Mississippi. And he was his host during the visit. And I think it's just continuing to build. And how can you not when you know you're that loved by the entire team? It's very much like Justin Hill, right? You're loved by an entire team. Home is close enough that you can feel good about leaving because these guys are also homebodies, right? A lot of they say that about Arkansas's boys, right? They say that about Mississippi boys. They say home is a hard one to pull these guys away from necessarily. But when you are that close, it's helpful. And I'll tell you, man, with these two boys from the SIP, I love what Ackland Deer and the relationship he's built there with the players, obviously with Gillespie and trusting the staff. Next part is Caleb Cunningham, what he's built with Shepard. Shepard's really, really good at building those relationships really, really fast. And he's done a phenomenal job. And I think he sees that you go into a room like this with a quarterback like Keelon Russell, how productive, and not just Keelon Russell. I shouldn't just say, you also just look at the quarterbacks on roster. These guys are going to be studs. Like just look down the line. It's going to be a competition for days out there. Who's going to start in the future? Okay. And I'll tell you right now, I'm going to do a video soon on Jalen Milroe, because there's a lot to be said with a lot of stuff that's come out recently. That's really exciting. A lot of people should be really happy about. But I'll tell you, man, I just think between those relationships, we should feel really good about bringing home. Well, I should say bringing over from home the boys from the SIP. Love them. I think they'd look great in crimson white, right? And it'd be a lot of fun, man. This is a good place for them, for sure.
Yeah, I love your point about the quarterback room whenever you talk about Cunningham, right? And I think that's one thing that really separates Alabama in terms of some of the other teams, because there's a lot of good quarterback rooms out there. There are very few where you look and you're like, okay, well, after Milroe, you have Key Russ in this class, you have Ty Simpson, you have Dylan Lonergan, you have Austin Mack. I mean, you have an abundance of quarterbacks. And then your point on Robert Gillespie, I'm going to take a quick second. And I apologize if I speak fast, because I want to make sure I get this information to y'all in a timely manner. Robert Gillespie is an elite recruiter. I'm going to run through the list of guys he has played a part in recruiting. You have Keon Keeley, Jahad Campbell, Justice Haynes, Des Ricks, Emmanuel Henderson, Jalen Hurd, Kamar Wheaton, Alvin Kamara, Tyler Booker, Richard Young, Ty Chandler, Jamarian Miller, Earl Little, Kevin Riley, Turbo Rogers, Daniel Hill. And that's where I decided, I think you get the point.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I could keep going, but I think you get the point. The guy is one of the best recruiters in the nation, as is Freddie Roach. And that's why, Jake, you and I, Coach Sean, Coach Jay, Coach Smook, we all agreed keeping those guys was a home run.
Huge.
Absolute home run hire, because they understand the relationships and you're able to get into rooms quicker. Plus, I love your point about some of the people in the background. Some of those guys in the background that do a phenomenal job week in, week out. Last player we need to talk about, K Lockett. We're just talking about a wide receiver, number 17 nationally, the number 3 wide receiver, and the number 6 in the state of Texas. Now, this is a really interesting one, Jake, especially after Texas just missed on DeCorian Moore. Because will Texas do a full court press for Lockett? I think you have to imagine so, right? Like, the last thing they want is another one of their wide receivers leaving the state, and especially whenever they didn't offer Key Russ. So now, if you look and you're the Texas Longhorns, if Lockett commits to Bama and Key Russ was a driving home factor for that, you have missed out on the number 1 and number 2 wide receiver in your state, and you've missed out on the best quarterback in your state. That's a tough pill to swallow. Now, from Alabama's side, Coach Shepard, in my opinion, is one of the best in the nation. I don't know how you would argue against it. What he has done is insane. And you have Key Rush chipping away at K Lockett. But this kid right here, Jake, this is going to be one of the more interesting recruiting battles I think we're going to be treated to. Let me know what you're thinking about K Lockett.
Man, I tell you, K Lockett, right? Like, as you just said, Ty, from Texas. And how do you say that, Ty? Because I'm not from Texas. Sachis, Texas. Okay. 6'2", 175. You know, Kalik, what I like about him is overall, like, his explosiveness. Again, it's interesting to see this model of, like, kind of wide receiver, because we see Caleb Odom from this last class being switched to tight end and from wide receiver in high school. Never played tight end, which I think at one point I thought he did, but no, he never played tight end in high school. Then Kalen DeBoer and staff come in, they identify his skill level, and they say, man, you're a wide receiver. That's where you need to be, right? So I love that. Big wide receiver. Okay. So, and then you go and you look at the other guys in that class. You have the speed, right? And Ryan Williams. I mean, we've talked about another good size body guy, Amari Jefferson. And then someone you've talked about, Ty, is I believe it's Rico Scott, right?
Yep.
And I'll tell you, like, you have a good, well-rounded class of wide receivers. Very interesting, because now we go to the class of 2025. All right. That class is, again, for the most part, we should say, held together by the current recruiting staff, but put together by Saban's staff. So now we go and we look at 2025. This is impressive. Very interesting. You have guys that they're targeting, as in Derek Meadows, big-bodied wide receiver, very similar body style to Caleb Odom. Okay. Then we have Caleb Cunningham and K Lockett. Again, 6'3", 6'2", 185, 190, 175, 180. I'll tell you, similar body styles to Rico and Amari. Interesting. I'm getting somewhere with this. The next one, you got Ryan Williams. Okay. But we have Latier Brook, right? Latier. A lot of people do not realize how good this kid is. You watch Latier and what he has done for his state and his athleticism and what he just does in general. Who does he remind you of? Ryan Williams. Okay. I'll tell you, man, this is a very interesting comparison in a receiving class as similar to the class of 2024 that we look at it and it's very well balanced. It is exactly what they want to put in place for future of this offense, right? Exactly what we keep building on. Just wait and watch 26. 26 will be a fun one. Okay. I'm interested to see 26. I tell you guys, the one wide receiver I'm looking for, big body wise, if you haven't heard him, is Sedarian Prime Morgan. I call him Prime, right, from Optimus Prime because Megatron's already taken. But Sedarian Morgan, big body wide receiver, that is really heavy on Alabama for 2026. Another topic for another day. So we go and we look at these guys, right, and you have to say, like, whoa, man, K Lockett. We look at his skill set level in comparison to Caleb Cunningham, and the dude has unbelievable ball skills, right? I mean, anytime he gets on the field, anytime he gets within the range, a decent range, right? That dude is coming down with the ball. His eyes, his tracking, his body placement, the way he's fluid in his route, right? Junior year, 59 receptions, about almost 1,300 yards receiving, and 13 touchdowns, right? It's like he has the radius of a basketball player who is, like 6'8", 6'9", like
Huge wingspan.
Huge. I mean, the guy you look at that, you draw a circle in that radius, right? Like, and that's how they measure a lot of guys is they look
Catch
out.
radius.
They draw the circle. Okay. All the way down from the ground up and around. Okay. I mean, like you're doing a nice little yoga stance, you know what I mean? But you look at this and this guy has a huge radius, way bigger than what it looks like just alone from his length. And I'll tell you that again plays into heavy skill set with his ability to come down with the ball in what you want in a wide receiver, especially if you have quarterbacks who are pinpoint accuracy like the one they do have in this class in Keelon Russ. I mean, it makes it even more exciting, right? Who had a huge catch radius? Someone they talk about a lot. Terrell Owens, big catch radius back in the day. He had the ball thrown to him by some studly quarterbacks, right? Now, were they as good as Key Russ? We're bound to find out, but I feel like Key Russ should be way up there and is going to be almost just as good when he gets his opportunity in the NFL.
And now we talk about, and I love that segue, right? You're basically
yeah, you like that?
Alley-ooping it.
You knew what I was doing there.
You're the Chris Paul to my Blake Griffin right now, alley-ooping it, and here I come. We have the On3 updated list, right? And we're going to talk about some of the movement from the Alabama players, right? Because Alabama now has 15 players per On3 that rank within the top 300 players, once again, per On3. Let's run through this very quickly. You have Michael Carroll, who comes in now at number 12, 5-star. Boom. Jackson Lloyd, number 26. Key Russ at number 37. Put a pin in that. Derek Smith, number 45. Dejon Lee, number 50. Justin Hill, 52. Duke Johnson, 56. Chuck McDonald, 98. Latier Brooks continuing to fly up, number 100. Caleb Edwards, just outside the top 100 at 119. Dawson Merritt, 125. Jaden Harmon, 128. Antonio Coleman, 168. Anthony Rogers, 213. And Micah DeBose, 245. Now, this is an interesting talking point, right? Mm-hmm. But I have a question for all of you, and I understand, right? Star rankings are not the end-all, be-all. I get it. So before anybody starts commenting, but star rankings don't matter. You're right. If your staff likes the evaluation, if they like what they see, that's all that matters. But there's also what's deserved. Here's my question. What does Key Russ have to do to be a 5-star? Does he need to win a state championship at the 6A level in the state of Texas? Oh, would you look at that? He's done that. Does he need two? You know what? Matter of fact, he already has two. Jake, does he have to go and win Elite 11 MVP, outperform all the quarterbacks that have ranked above him? Wouldn't you know it? He's done that as well. What about then following that up with going to the rivals camp and winning MVP there too? Does he need to do that? Crazy enough, guess what? He has. What does he need to do to hit 5-star status? And I understand for people out there saying it doesn't matter. He's already number 37 in the nation. Fine.
What?
But at the same time, there's what's deserved. He won Elite 11 MVP. He has won 2 state championship games. He is 29-1 at the Texas 6A level. And you can say that Duncanville team is loaded. I agree with you. DeCorian Moore's on it. They have a running back that's going to LSU. That team is stacked. But if that's the reason why they're winning, then why did he win Elite 11 MVP? Why did he win the Rivals 5-star MVP? He didn't have his team with him. He had a brand new bunch of guys, and he did it. Jake, what does Key Russ have to do to be a 5-star?
At this point, I'm gonna be honest, man. I don't know. The rankings are always interesting, as I've told you before. I've been through this, but granted, I think this was a long time ago for my rankings and what I went through or whatever, because I went up and down in all sorts of different ways. It was really interesting. But at the same time, today they've done a really good job. I think there are scouts out there, and most of these guys have really honed their craft. They've continued to hone their craft. They work on this day in, day out. This is what they're paid to do. So you have to ask, well, okay, who's dropping the ball here? Like where, and I don't know it well enough. I will say that I don't know how this works as far as what they go through stepwise. I've heard a little bit here and there around the steps they go through to rank people, but you have to say this one's an interesting one. Like, look, man, if I get it, we go through these other quarterbacks and we look at them. Okay, like you've seen them in camp, maybe you've seen them more. But to rank like as an overall player rating, I think one thing should be taken into consideration is that this dude's mindset. Like, can you observe this guy's mindset based on his play? Right? I think that's fair to say, right? Because we can observe a player just like you can when you are, like I said, I come from the world of law enforcement. Like you can observe someone's behavior, you can observe I come from training in law enforcement. I've done some really unique things in law enforcement, right? Ty, you've kind of heard me talk about it behind the scenes. There's a lot of aspects, right? And especially in the hiring process that I've done. And you can observe a lot about somebody by like their actions, by things they've shown and proven along the way. Number one, this kid's a winner. Like, time out. Let's just look at the talent level, what the competition he plays against in high school, things maybe he got thrown into in the mix and early in high school, right? Sophomore year, correct, Ty?
Yep.
That's sophomore year. Again, what he did with that team. Okay. Now we look at where he was early in the recruiting process. And once identified how quickly he shot up, there's a lot of pressure there. But has he answered the call? Yes. Has he answered the call in each situation that was on a big stage? Yes. Has he answered the call in the way he leads other young men? Yes. Those are all aspects that should be taken in consideration when we're looking at an overall ranking. I know skill set is a huge part of it. I am not trying to dismiss the other factors, right? I'm not trying to say, okay, from this standpoint, this guy here, this outweighs his skill set. No, we're not dismissing that because skill set's a part of ranking, right? It's a part of the system. We need to break it down like we're an NFL scout going out there, and that's how it should be looked at and seeing where would this guy rank at. Okay, fair enough. Rank the skill set. But also, I think that should be taken into consideration is how does this guy go about his business? How does this guy win? I know everyone wants to only do it. They feel like the measurables are only in skill set and only in maybe who they're facing in competition and what they're doing in camps. But okay, I get that. But I think there's also another measurable we can find in there that maybe dictates, right, this player and who they are. Keelon Russell as a player, and I also believe this as a person, is just he's a winner, just a champion, right? You look at the way he builds people up. You look at the way he already steps in a leadership role within this Alabama class and who he's recruiting himself. You look at the way he works 24/7, dedicated, honing his craft, mindset, focused. This guy is a leader, a champion, a winner, demonstrates it his sophomore year. Ty, what were the numbers for sophomore year as far as his record? Was it
Oh,
like
he just let me pull that up real fast for you. I know he was at 72% completion percentage. He threw for a metric ton of yards, if you're asking for specifics, during his sophomore campaign. He threw for 66%, 2,377 yards. His junior campaign is where I am mistaken. That's
mhm,
where he had the major increase at
mhm.
72.1% completion percentage, 3,483 yards, 38 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, ran for 361 yards, and 6 touchdowns.
Interesting. What was the record of that team his sophomore year and then his junior year? Do you have that by any chance next to you?
Sophomore year 15-0, junior year 14-1. He's 29-1 as a starter in Texas 6A.
Hold on. Sophomore year, the year he goes in and is put into the game to start. He takes the team 15-0. He hasn't even started yet. High
15 and
school.
0, won a state
Wow.
championship.
At
Junior year,
Duncanville.
14
6A.
and 1, won a state championship. That's what do you have to do? Do you need him to three-peat? Will
Yeah.
that finally be enough? I
Well,
don't get it.
and
I don't.
who's his number one wide receiver?
DeCorian Moore.
Weird. DeCorian Moore is what? Ranked nationally, he is number one wide receiver in the nation, correct?
Yeah.
DeCorian Moore cannot be DeCorian Moore unless the ball gets to him.
Yeah, that's the thing. DeCorian Moore is a
Interesting.
monster, right? Let's get this understood. DeCorian Moore is a monster, but you watch those throws,
Yep.
he's not having to stop sprinting and going to get the ball. DeCorian Moore is running beautiful routes, huge
Mhm.
pickup for Oregon, and he's doing this, and the ball is hitting his hands. It is
That's right.
it's symbiotic, right?
Mhm.
Like there is ebb and flow. Jake, I just don't get it. And I know people will
I don't
comment
either.
and say, "Oh, it doesn't matter," but there's also what's deserved. What more does he need
No,
to do?
yeah, Ty, I will say this, like, in the end of the day, you are spot on. What is deserved? The guy does deserve it. I think personally, based on what he's done, who he has at wide receiver and how high DeCorian Moore's ranked. Because again, I don't people like really do not put enough on this. Your quarterback getting you the ball, unless they are getting it to you very in short space, at screens, at slants, and quick little routes that are allow you to get it in a lot of space, and you make all the moves and plays. If you're downfield, you need a quarterback to get you that ball downfield, right? So the fact that you have a quarterback or a wide receiver ranked that high, but your quarterback isn't even close, what? And you're winning state championships, and you are dominating this Texas. There's just a lot of question marks there, right? Like the guy definitely deserves to be, I believe, the number one quarterback in the nation. I mean, at least in the top three, because I don't want to take away from these other
Great
guys who are
quarterback
really
class.
good. It's a great quarterback class. They're really, really good.
And,
But
and
go
I'm
ahead, Ty.
I'm so glad you said that because I do want to let something be known. I
Mhm.
don't mean to say that some of the guys that were ranked 5 stars because I
Yeah.
just did a rant about how he outperformed them I'm not saying they don't deserve that. I
Yeah.
truly, I mean, Jake, you can tell them we were talking in the green room before we came out. I think this is a phenomenal quarterback class. I think
100.
this is one of the best quarterback. I think that all of these guys that are ranked as 5 stars absolutely deserve it. But how in the world does Key Russ not?
Yep. I mean,
I don't know.
seriously. I don't get it either. But here's what I will say. In the end of the day, Right. And you guys in the comments, like you said, you'll probably hear it like these stars don't matter. In the end of the day, you guys are correct. When we step on the field, they do not matter. But I do think right now it's very interesting time in college football. There seems to be way more attention than what there's always been attention, but right now the attention seems to be like big, real big, just due to all the changes, coaching staff changes, a lot of new things. And I think right now, like it's almost rewarding, not necessarily even to Key Russ, because Key Russ knows what he can do. He knows where his mind's at. He knows what he's going to be a champion of, right? Yes, he deserves it, but does he need it? No, because he knows he has that confidence. He has the swag. But I'll say this is something that is noticed though is Alabama's ranking recruiting class wise. And if you want to not give the guys the credit they deserve, which I do think some guys got, but especially in Keelon Russell did not get at all, didn't even come close in this on three updated rankings. That affects Alabama's class. That affects their ranking and composite ranking in general. That affects where Alabama lands. And it almost seems as if by doing little small things, it holds Alabama back from getting closer to that number one spot, which just, again, causes for what? What do people not want to see a winner keep winning? Maybe that's conspiracy theory. That's all
Get your 10
just,
hats out.
that's right. That's some crazy stuff off the wall stuff. I don't know, but I think it is important though that we get that corrected, we get things corrected, we get things spot on at least by the end of the year, right? When ink's on paper, at least by the end of the year, at minimum. And people fall where they fall fairly as far as these classes, because that is something that will be noticed going forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Jake, we're going to hop out of here. Let the people know one more time, where can they find all your great content?
100%. You can search it down below. You see right down here. Yep. At Coach J Mayer or _ J Mayer, all capital letters. You can search that on YouTube. You can find my new channel. I'll be dropping a video today. It'll be a fun one talking about some of the coaching rule changes. They don't seem like they're that big, but they are impactful from about almost a week ago or so. So I'm going to be dropping a video regarding that. And some other things talking about some other teams. Another video will be coming out and probably doing a live here soon. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But Set the Tone, Alabama and college football talk. Set the tone. Come check it out. Let me know what you think.
Love it. And until next time, that's it. See ya.